Hey everyone, it's Deanna. Today, we're diving into a creepy crime story. Stick around for the chilling details. In March 2007, Major Karl Hoerig was discovered shot dead in his Newton Falls, Ohio residence. Immediate suspicions from his family and friends were directed at his second wife, Claudia. The couple was experiencing a tumultuous period, with Hoerig's friends noting his intention to pursue a divorce at the time. Upon the discovery of Karl Hoerig's body, Claudia had purportedly drained their bank account and returned to her native Brazil. Notably, Claudia Hoerig had also purchased a .357 Magnum handgun just days before Karl's death. A month later, Claudia Hoerig was charged in absentia with aggravated murder. The perpetrator of the crime was hardly a mystery, but a significant question loomed regarding whether she would face legal consequences. Brazilian law poses a hurdle, as it prohibits the extradition of Brazilian citizens. Born on Christmas Eve in 1963, Karl grew up in Newton Falls, Ohio, as the second of three boys, enjoying an idyllic small-town upbringing. After completing high school, he enlisted in the military. Karl's life took a significant turn when he met his first wife, Rhonda, at a military formal ball. Their union resulted in the birth of a daughter and a son. Despite divorcing in 1998, they maintained an amicable relationship, with Karl remaining a dedicated and involved father. Following the conclusion of his military service, Hoerig pursued a career as a pilot for Southwest Airlines and became a member of the Air Force Reserves. His dedication and contributions led to him attaining the rank of major, and he actively served in the Persian Gulf. During a routine mission in Peru, Karl crossed paths with a young woman named Carla del Castillo, whom he affectionately dubbed the love of his life. As reported by the weekly newspaper Cleveland Scene, Carla initially moved in with Karl outside Youngstown, Ohio, but their relationship encountered difficulties after 2 years. While Carla desired marriage and children, Karl did not share the same aspirations. Consequently, they parted ways. However, 6 months later, Karl realized his mistake, only to find that Carla had already moved on. In April 2005, Karl entered a new chapter in his life when he met Claudia Sobral, a 40-year-old woman, through a dating website. Claudia had overcome a challenging upbringing in Brazil and relocated to the United States in 1989. She had previously been married to a doctor, but divorced in 1998, subsequently becoming a naturalized U.S. citizen in 1998. At the time of meeting Hoerig, Claudia was a successful accountant residing in Queens, New York. He told me all about this girl from New York City and that he really liked her, but one of my first impressions when I met Claudia was that she reminded me so much of Carla, recalled Hoerig's friend Christopher Swigan to Snapped. Just 6 weeks after their initial meeting, Karl proposed to Claudia. They sealed their commitment with a wedding ceremony in Las Vegas in June 2005. Following their marriage, Claudia relocated to Newton Falls, Karl's hometown, where he had recently purchased a house near his parents. On March 15, 2007, Karl did not show up for duty at the Youngstown Air Force Reserve Station, causing concern among his colleagues. Gary Dodge, a fellow airman and friend, sensed that something was amiss. Recognizing the unusual nature of Karl's absence, Dodge promptly placed a call to 911 to request a welfare check on his friend. As detailed by Trumbull County Sheriff's Detective Mike Yanucci to Snapped, authorities went to Karl's residence, but there was no response at the door. In response to the situation, Karl's father, Ed, was contacted and granted access to the home for further investigation. Inside the residence, authorities discovered the lifeless body of 44-year-old Karl Hoerig at the foot of his staircase. According to court documents, he had sustained 3 gunshot wounds, once in the head and twice in the back, indicating that the shots were fired by someone positioned at the top of the stairs. Additionally, 2 bullets were found embedded in the floor. Karl's body had been concealed under a comforter and a construction tarp, leading investigators to believe that the killer was acquainted with him. The absence of signs of a break-in and the fact that nothing was taken from the home added to the mystery surrounding the crime scene. Investigators located the murder weapon, a .357 Smith & Wesson Magnum revolver, in an upstairs closet. The gun was found cocked, loaded, and positioned with the barrel extending through a 2x4 across the doorframe, with a string linking the trigger to the door. Despite this setup, the gun did not discharge. Karl's car was situated in the Hoerigs' driveway, containing a hastily packed suitcase and his cell phone, suggesting he was in the process of leaving when the fatal incident occurred. Notably, Claudia was absent from the residence, and her BMW was nowhere to be found. Jim Thomas, a retiree residing next door to the Hoerigs, informed investigators that on the morning of March 12, he observed Claudia leaving and rapidly driving down the street. Describing the departure, Thomas later remarked to Cleveland scene, "like a bat out of hell." Investigators interviewed Karl's friends and family, who disclosed that the marriage between the Hoerigs was profoundly strained. As the relationship deteriorated, Claudia's behavior became increasingly erratic. In the early months of 2007, Claudia summoned Karl's family for what she termed an emergency meeting, as reported by the CBS television series 48 Hours. Karl, unaware of the gathering, only discovered it when he descended for his morning coffee. In the course of the gathering, Claudia leveled accusations against Karl, alleging emotional abuse, while he voiced grievances about her reluctance to contribute to household chores. When the conversation shifted towards the topic of divorce, Claudia fainted and subsequently barricaded herself in the bedroom. Later on that day, Claudia consumed a bottle of pills and took to the road in her car. This resulted in her being in a car crash and subsequently facing charges of driving under the influence, as documented by Cleveland scene. While piloting for Southwest Airlines on March 10th, Karl had a layover in North Carolina and utilized the opportunity to visit his ex-wife. During this visit, he confided in Rhonda, revealing his intentions to leave Claudia and move into a house he had rented on March 12th, as recounted in the CBS television series 48 Hours. For those close to Karl, Claudia was immediately suspected as the perpetrator. "The first thing I said to the police was, 'You know who to go after,'" expressed Karl's mother, Franny Hoerig, to Cleveland scene. Investigators also uncovered that on March 9th, Claudia took steps to close her bank account and wired $9,900 to her father in Brazil, as indicated in court documents. The following day, Claudia acquired the murder weapon, having a laser sight grip installed, along with purchasing hollow point bullets from a local gun shop. Subsequently, she visited a firing range on the same day to practice using the firearm. A BOLOO, be on the lookout, was issued for Claudia's BMW, and it was eventually discovered at Pittsburgh International Airport. Investigation revealed that Claudia had flown from there to New York City on March 12th and subsequently boarded a flight to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Having pieced together motive and means, authorities in Trumbull County filed aggravated murder charges against Claudia Hoerig and issued a warrant for her arrest on April 12, 2007. The Brazilian Constitution explicitly prohibits the extradition of its citizens. Nevertheless, Claudia had renounced her Brazilian citizenship by taking an oath upon becoming a U.S. citizen. This legal development created a pathway for extradition proceedings. Both Claudia and Karl Hoerig were on the brink of concluding their tumultuous Match.com marriage. They were each exploring new relationships and seeking alternative living arrangements. However, an unexpected pregnancy threw Claudia into a depressive and suicidal state, as she testified in Trumbull County Common Pleas Court. Claudia recounted her experiences of an abusive marriage with Karl during her testimony in court. "I wasn't joking around. I meant to kill myself," Claudia testified in Judge Andrew D. Logan's court. She described a device she had devised to mitigate the gun's recoil, aiming to prevent severe injury but ensure her death. According to her testimony, Claudia asserted that her intention was not to kill Karl, an Air Force Reserve pilot, but rather to end her own life. Claudia testified that when she attempted to use the device, she placed the gun in it to stabilize and secure it. Despite feeling intense emotions with her blood very hot and finding it incredibly challenging, she asserted that she did pull the trigger on herself after killing Karl. However, she claimed that the gun did not discharge. Claudia Hoerig described 2 previous suicide attempts, one of which led to her hospitalization a month before the fatal March 2007 shooting in the couple's West 9th Street house in Newton Falls. During her testimony, she emphasized that thoughts of suicide persisted even when she left the country and went to Brazil. Claudia testified that during her time in Brazil, she contemplated jumping off several tall hotel buildings and considered filling a shack she had constructed with car exhaust fumes as methods of ending her life. However, various concerns hindered these attempts, including the fear of potentially harming an innocent person during her fall, and the worry that neighbors might become suspicious about the prolonged running of the Volkswagen Beetle she had purchased, generating a loud noise. Claudia Hoerig asserted that she never intended to kill her husband, and they were in the process of making plans to separate. The situation changed when she discovered, for the 3rd time, that she was pregnant. At that point, she decided to try to persuade Karl Hoerig either to join her in raising the baby together or to give his blessing for her to raise the child alone in New York, where she had initially lived when she came from Brazil on a visitor's visa in 1989. According to Claudia Hoerig's testimony, the dynamics shifted when Karl Hoerig expressed his intention to adopt his soon-to-arrive grandchild. This decision was made because his 18-year-old daughter wished to pursue her education instead of raising a child with Claudia. Claudia and Karl had married in Las Vegas in the summer of 2005 after meeting online and engaging in visits to each other in 5 trips between Ohio and New York, where Claudia was employed as an accountant. Claudia Hoerig claimed that if Karl had not expressed a desire to raise his grandchild instead of their own baby, he would still be alive, and she would have taken her own life. She stated that she lost control of herself, attributing her emotional turmoil to Karl's decision. She expressed deep distress over him choosing to adopt his daughter's child, feeling that she had no right to have her own baby. Claudia admitted to being very angry about this situation. Claudia Hoerig expressed her confusion, saying, "I was baffled. Why can't I have this child? Why can't I have the right to be a mother? I didn't want it. I didn't plan it." She recounted that in her previous 10-year marriage to a man she met in New York and married in 1990, she had never been pregnant and had never desired to be a mother. However, after experiencing 2 miscarriages with Karl, she stated that she knew she didn't want an abortion and began to develop a desire to become a mother. Claudia Hoerig detailed the rapid deterioration of their relationship. She revealed that they almost didn't get married, and after they did, she immediately considered getting the marriage annulled. However, she lost her job when she admitted to her employer that she lied about missing work to marry Karl, an action she claimed he forced her to take. Without employment and gaps in her resume, she explained that she no longer felt confident in supporting herself alone in New York. Consequently, she decided to stay and attempted to adhere to Karl's rules in order to make him happy and assist him in overcoming his own psychological issues, as per her testimony. Claudia Hoerig described unconventional sexual preferences and asserted that Karl Hoerig imposed strict rules on her, such as wearing revealing clothing both at home and in public, restricting her to open-toed shoes only in his presence, providing her with a menu to cook when he was home, and insisting that she use her savings to cover expenses. She claimed that when she lost her temper and turned the gun on him instead of herself, Karl was walking down the stairs and was killed immediately. Prosecutors, on the other hand, argue that there was no active confrontation at the time of the shooting. They contend that the combat veteran was tying his shoes at the bottom of the stairs when Claudia ambushed him. Claudia expressed a desire to give her father one more kiss and one more hug. She recounted that her father took charge, directing her on what steps to take. He instructed her to retrieve her passport and other documents from the bank, and to find a flight out. Claudia Hoerig provided details about her actions in the weeks following her escape to Brazil. Her father, sister, and brother-in-law, who was a pastor, dissuaded her from immediately taking her own life or contacting the police. They advised her to fly to Brazil, so she utilized Karl Hoerig's employee privileges with Southwest Airlines to fly from Pittsburgh to New York. From there, she purchased a ticket with cash for the journey to Brazil. The legal proceedings were marked by a stark contrast in the narratives presented by Claudia and Karl's family. Claudia's account, shared during the trial, was later challenged by Karl's family, who referred to him as a military hero and disputed the claims made by Claudia. Karl's family sought justice for his murder and, driven by their eagerness to see Claudia held accountable, expressed impatience with the legal process. The desire for Claudia to face trial and potential imprisonment was fueled by the Brazilian Constitution, which expressly prohibits the extradition of its citizens. However, Claudia's status as a U.S. citizen, having taken an oath renouncing her Brazilian citizenship, created a legal pathway for potential extradition. The murder of Karl Hoerig gained widespread coverage in various true crime shows, and Claudia was added to the FBI's most wanted fugitives list over the ensuing years. After a prolonged legal process, Brazilian officials eventually permitted Claudia Hoerig's extradition to proceed. She was taken into custody in April 2016 and extradited to the United States. Claudia arrived at Trumbull County Jail on the night of January 17, 2018, to face charges of aggravated murder. Claudia immediately admitted to shooting her husband, but asserted that she did so under emotional duress. She claimed that Karl was controlling and abusive, and that she became suicidal after experiencing 2 miscarriages. According to Claudia, she initially purchased the murder weapon with the intention of taking her own life. On the morning of May 12, 2007, Claudia alleged that she told Karl she was going to end her life. She maintained that he asked her to wait until he left and to carry out the act in the basement to avoid splattering blood on the walls. At her murder trial in January 2019, Claudia took the stand in her own defense, repeating her claims of emotional abuse, allegations Karl's family adamantly refuted. Claudia claimed that after shooting Karl, she turned the gun on herself, only to discover that it was out of bullets. With the intention of reloading the gun to complete the act, she stated that she then contacted her family in Brazil. According to her account, her family convinced her to flee to Brazil. After a 12-year quest for justice, on January 25, 2019, the jury took just 3 hours of deliberations to find Claudia Hoerig guilty of aggravated murder. She was subsequently sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 28 years. At the age of 57, Claudia will first be eligible for parole in 2044. Thanks for joining today's crime journey. I'm Diana, your guide in the shadows. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's keep exploring mysteries together. Stay curious, stay alert, and see you next time. Take care.